Amigos, ¿cómo estás? Meaning, how are you in Spanish? Ted Jones World Podcast, episode 203 here. How is everybody doing? If you're watching on YouTube here, you see that I got a little mustache going. A mustache plus a little hair under the lip. I don't think they qualify this as a goatee, but I don't know. I'm just rocking this for the day. I don't know how much longer I can really handle it.
Hey, go frío con mi amigo, Ted Jones.
But we'll see. You know, I kind of like the look. I look Dominican a little bit. I look Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico also, random thought. It's funny that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. It's so far away. Like Hawaii, too. Alaska, I get. Alaska's attached to us, you know? But then again, Alaska's kind of part of Canada. Who made the boundaries of this country? You know, who was like, oh, no, bro. We're keeping Guam. Isn't Guam like a territory of the United States? But anyway, whatever, guys. Last night we had the Ted Jones Comedy Show. It was amazing. It was like a large bonfire. We had a great crew, great lineup. Next Ted Jones Comedy Show, January 24th at the Stand, 116 East 16th Street. Check the link in this YouTube video, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. But have a few fun things on the schedule this week. We're going to the Empire State Building tomorrow. I cannot wait for that. That's going to be super fun. And then I'm also shooting like a little tennis vlog. So my buddy needs like some talent for a tennis commercial thing that he's doing. So I'm going to go and do that. For those of you who don't know, yes, I did play tennis in college. I played for about 2.5 years. And then after 2.5 years, I got bored. I did get bored. So me, you know, getting bored could also be an excuse for the reason that I started smoking like a lot of weed to the point where I didn't really care if it was like tennis or smoking weed. Because like when I was on the tennis team, I wasn't able to do that. Like kids were blacking out from alcohol, getting so wasted like 2 days before we had a match, and like it was totally fine. It's just a stigma around weed. Like that movie back in the early 1940s, late 1930s, Reefer Madness. So this movie, I never even saw it. I've seen clips from it. But like Reefer Madness came out and this guy turns into a monster after he smokes weed. Like that's, I think, the opposite of what happens when you smoke weed. I mean, at least for me. So I can't really relate to that. But like the government and anything on TV really just has an effect on our mindset. You know, like I thought last week that Omicron was not as poignant as it was 2 weeks ago, just simply because of how much I would see it on the news. You know, like if it was 100 years ago and we were dealing with the Black Plague, I don't even know if it was called the Black Plague. I should probably look that up. Oh, excuse me, not the Black Plague, like the Spanish flu, when way more people died. I mean, we just didn't know about it that much because there wasn't much coverage. Obviously, media coverage is good. Hey, I'm doing a freaking podcast here. Yes, it's great. There's some exaggeration to how much people are really getting sick. The hospital beds are filling up because of the unvaccinated. And if everybody got vaccinated, wouldn't the disease just go away? Or do you think that the government has a ploy, and as soon as everybody gets vaccinated, they're like, oh, well, there's another virus. It's so annoying. Like 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, rather. I mean, we never had to deal with a virus, and now all of a sudden we do. Hindsight is 2020 is one of the crazier sayings I think I've ever heard. You know, because that was the craziest year on Earth. I wonder if we're even going to go to Mars. Elon and Jeff Bezos, you know, trying to move the ball a little bit, you know, to go to Mars. I'd be down to live on Mars. Logan Paul talking about how he didn't want to die on Earth. He'd like to die on another planet, which is fresh. I agree, dude. I think that could be fun to go explore another planet. It's like you're going to Miami, but you're just really, really doing it, really traveling, hopping on a fresh rocket. I tell you, this glass table, guys, if I don't clean it twice a week, it gets so dusty. It's annoying. It makes me just want to have a wood table. So it would get equally as dusty, I'm sure, but I just wouldn't see it as much. And then with all these lights here, it's easy to see the dust. This is like random New York City real estate news, but kind of interesting. A-Rod bought a $10 million co-op in New York City. And the thing is, with co-ops in New York City, you have to be approved by the co-op board. The apartment that he bought is right across the street from the Natural History Museum. And the thing is, you'll find with co-ops in New York City that they are often cheaper than condos because of all the co-op fees that you have to pay throughout the time that you live there. So if you see like a studio or one bedroom that you're thinking about buying after being in New York City for a number of years and renting, be careful, because if it's a co-op, chances are those fees, those taxes are going to be way higher than they would if they were a condo. Also, like, I don't know if it makes much sense to buy an apartment in New York City. Hear me out. The value of a studio, like a 400 square foot studio, only is going to increase so much from $550,000 in a few years. I feel like for the most part, you're probably better renting and keeping that cash and doing something different with it, putting it in stocks, putting it in other income producing passive real estate, put it in crypto, within the next 3 years. So buying a studio for $500,000 around that, I don't know if it makes sense in New York. It might make sense to buy a $500,000 home that you can do renovations to the bathroom. I don't know, maybe you add a pool if you live in the suburbs, add value to it like that, and then you can refinance and take your money out. But living in New York City, a 400 square foot apartment, even if you're redoing the bathroom, not really a lot of work that's being done in there to make the property so much better. And you're relying on the real estate market to really improve within the next few years. So I don't know if I'm such a big proponent of people buying apartments in the city. I understand if you could do some work to it, but renting's not so bad. Renting gets a bad rap. Like renting, I would say almost is an asset. You can drop it whenever you want, leave the next month, stop paying the bill. But like, if you're over leveraged on your house, let's say you get a mortgage loan from the bank that's 85% of the purchase price and you only put down 15%, which is like, that's a crazy amount. I feel like you should always be putting down at least 20%. Your monthly rate's going to be high, and then you lose your job, then you fucked. So be careful with the assets that you buy. Just take a second to think, is this actually an asset? Is it paying me every month? Because that is probably the definition of an asset. I actually want to look that up. That's interesting. Let's see what the definition of asset is. I imagine it's going to have to be something to do with paying you. Asset, a useful or valuable thing, person, or quality. Well, okay, that's a little vague. Okay, let's read the other definition here. Property owned by a person or company regarding as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. So, yeah, I understand that. But an asset also, I think it should pay you. Should it not? That doesn't really make much sense to have an asset that's just something of value. Like if you're renting an apartment, isn't that something of value? That's a vague definition. We need to figure that out, Wikipedia. I would say that an asset is something that provides you cash flow. I mean, a house doesn't really provide you cash flow. If it's one door, all right, this is what Grant Cardone says. Grant Cardone, big real estate guy. I listen to the things he says most of the times. He says, if it's one door, rent it. If it's multiple doors, buy it. Because then you're getting that cash flow. And then you don't have to worry about that. And the thing is with real estate, you really make a lot of money throughout the time that you're owning the deal. Once you buy the deal, you make money. And then throughout the time that you own it, you're making money. And then when you sell it, you make money too. So, guys, we got to look for asset producing cash flow. So we had a filmer last night for the Ted Jones Comedy Show. Like every show, we just have somebody film it and not use the other comics' audio, like their sets. And after the show was done, we smoked weed together, and this kid got so high. Feel bad, like I'm not going to say his name, but I know he just got so blazed because he doesn't usually smoke weed. And it's funny, you can see when somebody doesn't really smoke weed, first of all, their eyes cut in half. Like their eyes droop over half of the, what's the actual eyeball called? I guess whatever, your cornea, whatever it is. Half of his eyes were shut. The words started slurring out of his mouth, and then, he left shortly after. But bro, I'll see you soon. No worries about that. Weed is a funny drug. I feel like weed chills people out. I've never seen anybody do anything close to what they do in Reefer Madness when it comes to weed. If you guys have never heard of Reefer Madness, look it up. Movie back in the day. It was just like how weed was bad propaganda. And then Nancy Reagan was like, don't do drugs, just say no. And she was just sending out naked pics, which is fine. Whatever. It's all good. But, smoking weed is really not that big of a deal. Drinking alcohol is way worse. Goes right to your gut, goes right to your liver. Smoking weed, I don't know. I think you just lose a few brain cells here and there. I can't imagine it's that bad. But I'm very excited for when I could just go out on the street to the weed store and I just show my ID and I walk in. It doesn't need to be like an 8-step process. There are stores that are opening up in Chelsea now, but it's expensive. The tax is close to 30%, and then you also need to pay the club fee on top of that. So let's say you're buying an eighth of weed, which I've spoken about on this podcast before, that I go to my local deli and I get an eighth of weed for $30. But if you're going to a legal cannabis club, you have to pay the daily club fee, which is a $15 charge as soon as you walk in the door, or you can become a member for the month and you pay $40 a month to be a member, which is about $500 a year to buy weed, which I'm not doing. So you pay the $15 fee to walk in, and then the eighths when you're in there are at least $65. So you're paying 115 to 120% markup to go into like these legit cannabis clubs that have all the right licenses and all this. And power to the people who are opening up these cannabis clubs in New York. It's definitely very sketchy, tough business to first get involved in, and I praise you guys for doing that, obviously. But why are they jamming us up so much? That club fee? I understand the taxes. Look, we got to put tax on weed. That's fine. But at the same time, if we're going to tax weed 30%, I mean, we got to shoot up that tax for cigarettes, which I know we have in New York. But in some states, cigarettes are like $8, and then in New York, it's like close to $20. Fine, we're doing that. But what about an alcohol tax? I feel like those three things should just be the same. What do you want to keep it across the board? Maybe like 15% across the board? Something like that. People never really think about taxes. People don't. You know, when you hear rappers charging like $50,000 a show, I mean, what is that? That's really like, it's really like $30,000 a show. So you got to ask for that extra 20%. Yeah, I mean, I'm figuring out about taxes just along the same amount of time as you guys. I wish I learned taxes in school. I spoke about this last episode on the podcast. It was unclear if Novak Djokovic was going to play in the Australian Open, but he did get an exemption from the vaccine. This is a weird time, obviously, in our society, but this guy's getting exempted from taking the vaccine when nobody else is getting exempted. Is that fair? This is a crazy story. A gentleman in Baltimore, a 57-year-old, just had a pig heart transplant. They took a heart from a pig and put it in a man. I can't imagine that this is a good start. I can also, like, how is this going to work? Currently, 17 people die every day in the U.S. waiting for a transplant, with more than 100,000 reportedly on the waiting list. Here is what the doctor at Maryland said. He's more at risk because we require more immunosuppression, slightly different than we would normally do human-to-human transplant. How well the patient does from now is, it's never been done before, so we don't really know. People die all the time on the waiting list, waiting for organs. If we could use genetically engineered pig organs, they'd never have to wait. They could basically get an organ as they needed it. Dude, this is so stupid. What a dumb thing to say. So now we're going to start killing pigs for their hearts, for their bacon. And you guys are over there being like, oh, the dog is so cute. Meanwhile, slicing the freaking head off a pig. This is not okay, guys. We're in 2022, and now are we going to start transplanting pig hearts into humans? No. No. This is so dumb. Where's PETA? Where's Greta Thunberg? This is dumb. This is so stupid. Like, imagine this starts to become a thing, guys. We're not going to make it on this earth if we start transplanting pig hearts into humans. I don't think that was the way the universe intended us to live. Killing all these animals. And people have arguments for me being vegan and such, like, oh, well, we're made to eat meat. We're not made to We're not made to eat meat. We're not carnivores. We don't have freaking 3-foot-long canine teeth. We have teeth like chimpanzees who eat leaves, berries. I feel like we were supposed to come to this planet, eat meat whenever we were able to, in terms of we had to catch it. We had to go out and hunt it and catch it. We weren't eating meat 3 times a day from Tyson Farm Factory. And anytime we would eat meat, it'd be once every 3 months, if that. We'd wake up, we'd be hunting all throughout the day, and then maybe by 6 p.m., hopefully, we would find some plants that we'd be able to eat. Or we see a chicken in the wild, and hopefully we'd kill it and then eat it for a couple days. We weren't eating pigs. Even in the Bible, if you read the Bible, it says don't eat pigs. Hey, you're not supposed to eat that. You're not supposed to eat the pigs. I actually want to look that up. I don't want to misquote the Bible. One moment. It says it so many times. There are 100 Bible verses about eating pork. And the pig, because of the parts of the hoof and its cloven footed, does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. You shall not eat any of their flesh. You shall not touch their carcasses. They're unclean to you. Those who sanctify and purify themselves to go into the gardens, following the mindset, eating pig's flesh and the abdominal and mice, shall come to an end together, declares the Lord. All right, there's so many verses here that just talk about how the pig is not clean to eat. We should not be eating pigs. We eat as many pigs in this country as other countries eat dogs. You know, you guys go to China, you're like, I can't believe they eat dogs over there. Well, we're eating pigs here. You know, to each his own. We got to chill on eating the animals. I think that's what I've picked up here from this article and just from reading this. More stores popping up, more restaurants having vegan options. I'm liking it. We got to start having steakhouses with vegan options. And the more and more restaurants close, it's tough for people. It's tough for people to open a restaurant. Absolutely. Owning a restaurant is probably one of the hardest businesses that you can go into. But I think having a smaller menu with more options for everyone is the way to go. Maybe don't quote me on that, but have like 10 items, 7 non-vegan, 3 vegan, and then a diet soda, nice drinks, and I'm sure you'll do well. A nice trendy place. I think where some restaurant owners go wrong is they just have too many things on the menu, staff, not enough publicity towards the restaurant. But opening a restaurant is so risky. Costs so much money to get in there. And then meanwhile, you're renting your space. Let's say at the end of the year, the landlord wants to jump up the rent 50%. You already have all your shit in there. You did a $100,000 build out. The landlord has so much power over the lease right now. So what, are you screwed? Or you might stay in business, and then by year 6, year 7, what, are you going to go out of business? I don't know. Restaurant business at the moment, not for me. I do want to make a seltzer one day. We'll see if that happens. And of course, a weed line that doesn't cost $80 for an eighth. All right. So you guys, by the way, I know I kind of slid that in there, like sneakily, that I go and get weed from the deli around the corner from my apartment, but try it. If you see in your deli that there are a number of like weed companies, like you see a Cookies, maybe you see some Lemon Haze, stuff like that. Cookies being a weed company that they have in plastic bags. Ask the guy behind the counter, what's up, man? Be sneaky about it. What's up, dude? You got any, got any back there? He'll be like, oh, my friend. And then he probably should have it. He should charge you like $30 or $35 for an eighth. Beats smoking that $85 weed. Is the $85 weed better? I don't know. Maybe can't really tell the difference. But like, I also don't want really strong weed. How about you guys? When you like drink wine or whatever, like a red wine, maybe you don't want it to be so strong, but I think it could be different with wine because, you like the taste. That's the same thing with weed, but I don't think the taste of weed is worth paying 115% more. Am I right? I think so, guys. At least 115%. For now in New York, it's tough to get weed. California, easy to get weed. You just walk right in there. Florida, when I was down in Miami, it was kind of tough. I mean, you just ask a person who has a medical marijuana card, and then they usually just go and get it for you. But we should just make weed like alcohol. Just have it flowing. It's going to be better for everyone. If people start to choose weed over alcohol, think about how many arrests we're avoiding. DUIs. I'm not saying that you should smoke weed and drive. I'm just saying that it's probably a lot easier to be high than being wasted behind the wheel. But those are just my 2 cents, guys. If you like wine, stick to it. If you like getting hungover, stick to that. I had a hangover last week. Lasted a cool 90 hours. It was awful. The 90-hour hangover. That's what happens when you guys are 30 years old. You say, Ted, you got a mustache like that and you're 30? Yep. Also, to the guy who was at the show last night who had a delicious-looking mustache, man. Had a great-looking mustache. I was like, dude, have you ever given out a mustache ride on one of those? And he was like, no, what's a mustache ride? And then I asked everybody in the crowd if they knew what a mustache ride was. We, as a group, did not know what a mustache ride was. So I simply looked it up, and it said that a mustache ride is when somebody sits on your face and rides your mustache. So it would likely be a girl on a male, in that typical situation. And then right under it in the Wikipedia definition, it said, how much do mustache rides cost? And I clicked on that, and then it said, mustache rides are $1. Get them while you can. So if now you guys know, mustache rides $1. Mustache rides, that is so dumb. There's also just like so many sexual innuendos that I never really would understand, like a rusty trombone. You guys will look that one up. I don't want to tell you what that one is. Freaking blue waffle, lemon party. You guys Google these things, and you're going to be surprised. You're going to be shocked. That was like the early days of Web 2.0, those particular things. Blue waffle, lemon party, two girls, one cup. But, you just got great videos here on Web 0.0, and I can't wait for Web 3.0. So let's go from the Bitcoin bottom that we're at right now, 40K, and let's shoot that thing up, okay? I'm shaving this mustache and goatee shortly, okay? I want to get to a listener email quickly. Ted, what is your favorite landmark in New York City? As I said in the beginning of this episode, I'm excited to go to the Empire State Building tomorrow. I think that is probably my favorite landmark. Right in the middle of Manhattan. The Freedom Tower is obviously great, very meaningful for sure. But it's down there. It's all the way downtown. Empire State Building right there on 34th Street and 5th Avenue. It's great. I'm excited to go into the Empire State Building. I don't think I've been at the Empire State Building since I was like 4. Freaking fired up. Today being 19 degrees, you guys stay warm. You guys stay absolutely warm. Thank you guys for tuning into the Ted Jones World Podcast. Again, we do episodes Monday, Thursday of the Ted Jones World Podcast and the Ted Jones Vlog Tuesdays and Fridays. So check the Ted Jones World YouTube channel and you'll get all that juicy content. All right? See you guys soon. Peace.